Okay, this is a project that I'm so eager to do and to talk about before doing it that I don't even care that this is, I think, the seventh or eighth video, the seventh or eighth take that I've tried to do of this video. So, long story, and I'll try to make it short. This afternoon, there were several interruptions from our local government because of the COVID-19 that when they send out a message, and I've mentioned this before here, but for what it's worth, it automatically disables the camera when that happens, and it does not matter if I'm offline. I've tried just going offline entirely, so it's like an emergency message, which you can get pretty much in any situation with a cell phone or whatever. So anyway, and then yeah, I also had multiple videos in portrait mode. Mistakenly. So anyway, this is in landscape mode. It appears to be, and I want to get started on this again. I'm still no less excited to discuss, to talk about this project. And I don't know, hopefully maybe this will generate some ideas if you're looking to do a project. This is just, yeah, this is one that I'm quite eager to do. So without further ado, it is with the game Mike Owens Quick Play Hockey. And this is, it's going to be a 12-team league. And the first of those 12 teams, I'm going to go through the teams one by one first, is the 1969-1970 Montreal Canadiens. And this is a team that missed the playoffs in the 12-team league despite finishing 5th overall that season. They were playing in the original 6 division, so the East Division. At that time, the West Division was all expansion teams. The East Division was all original 6 teams. So the much stronger division was in the East. They actually changed the following season after this happened, but they finished 5th overall in the NHL and also 5th overall in the East Division. And of course, only 4 teams qualify from each division. So yeah, needless to say, further, they didn't qualify for the playoffs that year. And yeah, so this league, and actually I'm going to call it, and it's a good time to mention it, I'm going to call this league the Redemption League, and I think to be a bit of a jerk, I'm going to call the cup the Consolation Cup and or the Contenders Cup. These are teams that are not all-time great teams, but all-time good to very good teams, and hopefully this will be a balanced, competitive league. But thought I would start with this team that, you know, had they been in the West Division that season, they would have been 1st overall, but because they were in the East and the way the divisions were divided at the time. And it's funny, hockey fans today complain about the divisional breakdowns, but I mean, but imagine if you were around then, you know, how much more you would have complained. But anyway, so these are the Montreal Canadiens, and if I sound tired doing this, it's because I've done this spiel now multiple times, but moving on to the second team of 12 in the project, I want to do this and get it done. This is the 1971-72 New York Rangers, and they were 2nd overall in the NHL that year. They went to the Stanley Cup Finals, actually, where they lost to Boston 4-2. They were sandwiched in between a really good Boston Bruins and Montreal Canadiens team that season. And this was a really outstanding year for the New York Rangers, where they got almost all the way, but not quite, so that qualifies them for this league. Then the Buffalo Sabres in 1974-75, they finished 2nd overall in the NHL, and where they lost also in the Stanley Cup Final to the Philadelphia Flyers, 4-2. 113 points, though, 49 wins, 15 ties, and 113 points. And actually, they were tied with 2 other teams in that regard. 1st overall, the Philadelphia Flyers also had 113 points, but they had 51 wins among theirs. And then just behind Buffalo was the Montreal Canadiens, with, I think, 47 wins and 113 points. But yeah, 2nd overall in the NHL, a very outstanding Buffalo Sabres team that was better, that had fared better than Buffalo expansion teams prior to this season, and I think even following this season for several years. They didn't get back to this level. But also, just in behind Philadelphia, Buffalo, and Montreal were sort of overlooked, I think, this outstanding year from Los Angeles. They finished with 105 points, 2nd in the North Division. I think that's to the Montreal Canadiens. Since I started watching hockey, Montreal, they played in the Adams Division at the time, actually, but I think they were in the North then. So LA, 105 points was good for 4th overall in the NHL. There wasn't as much parity in the NHL then. And yeah, 105 points. They lost a prelim, however, to Toronto 2-1. So one could even argue that in a best of 7, they might have been able to overcome Toronto. And then who knows, you know, if they had a best of 7 proper and how far they might have gone in the playoffs after that. Veteran Terry Harper captained this team. I have C, these copyright C, as soon as you put the C in parentheses, it automatically does that. So Harper plays in a couple of teams in this, and that's another thing. This league does have, I'm going to digress if I talk about this, but there are players on multiple teams in this league, which personally I don't mind as long as, again, if I go 1 city per team And so there will be an LA Terry Harper and a Montreal Terry Harper. And one could even call this the Dave Babich League. So I think he's on 4 teams in it. But so his odds actually of winning are pretty good. Winning the Contenders or Consolation Cup or whatever. So this is the St. Louis Blues here, 1980-81. That completes, actually after LA, that completes the 4 teams from the 1970s. There are 6 teams from the 1980s. This is a 25-year generational gap. Because this is the 7th or 8th take of this video, I'm trying to remember now what I've said already and what I haven't said already in this video that I would have said in the previous one and would have wanted to have said in this video. But anyway, St. Louis finished 2nd overall in the NHL that season, and as such, this was a bit of an outlier for the still relatively upstart Blues team. I mean, not really. They've been in the league for 14 years by that point and had played in Stanley Cup finals 3 times, even though they only had to emerge from the weaker West, the aforementioned West Division, in order to do that. But yeah, 45 wins and 107 points, quite an outstanding season for them. Lost in the quarterfinals to New York 4-2. But I think actually one thing about this game engine, I'm pretty sure that with like the home and offense and defense and visitor offense and defense, it only factors in the regular season performance. So the fact that some of these teams might have been a bit of a playoff flop might not factor into this, and it could still be, you know, a competitive league, and their playoff performances may not take away from that. Next team is the 1982-83 Boston Bruins, and this team was a bit of an exception in that they finished 1st overall in the NHL. This is the only 1st overall team that I have among these 12, and I was actually torn between this and another 1st overall NHL team, which was the 1989-90 Boston Bruins. That would be the Cam Neely edition. This team does not have Cam Neely, though they do have Rick Middleton. Nice to see him. Barry Peterson. Ray Bourque still, but a younger Ray Bourque. The Crowder brothers, Peter McNabb, Colorado Avalanche color commentator. Brad Park on sort of the tail end of his career. Mike Milbury's a shoe-in on this team. Craig McTavish, I mean, it's hard to even think of him as a Bruin. I normally think of him as an Edmonton Oiler, later a New York Ranger. You have Gordie Howe's son, Marty Howe, here, and Wayne Cashman probably on his last skating legs at the tail end of his career. So, yeah, the 82-83 Boston Bruins, first in the Adams Division, lost in the conference final 4-2 to the New York Islanders. And actually with this team and with the one that will follow here, the Chicago Blackhawks, they finished 4th overall in the NHL, 1st overall in the Norris Division, 47 wins, 104 points that season for them. So quite a formidable team that this was. Unfortunately for both of these teams in 1983, wedged between them were then the New York Islanders and Edmonton Oilers teams of the time, just a couple of all-time great teams. So, you know, these are 2 merely very, very good teams that just came up a little short. Again, if I sound a little tired, it's because I've tried to talk my way through this now multiple times. Anyway, the next team up is the 1984-85 Winnipeg Jets, and maybe a bit of an underdog in this one. I mean, I think the 69-70 Montreal Canadiens, actually, contrary to a number of other setups that I've had where Montreal's been, if anything, the strongest team, or one of the stronger ones, probably the strongest one. And this one, they might even be the weak link in this league. But the Jets, 96 points. This was about their best season. And 4th overall in the NHL that season, 2nd in the Smythe Division because they had to share it with the Edmonton Oilers. And also they lost the division final. They were swept by Edmonton, but a very good team in their own right. And also, and this might have been this probably was actually the main reason why I wanted to use this team. I don't have Dale Hawerchuk in any of my hockey games, and of course he passed away in the summer of 2020. Lost his battle with cancer in the end, and I wanted to, at the time actually, I even thought about doing like a tribute game like a lot of YouTubers will do, sports simulation YouTubers. When you know, a great sports hero of days gone by passes away, they will play and upload a tribute game. I'm not sure if I would have uploaded anything, but it would have been nice to have a Hawerchuk card at the time and play a game with it. So Hawerchuk's in this game not only as a player, but he has another role in this whole league setup as well, which I'll get to in a little bit. So yeah, the Winnipeg Jets, this would be, well, one of the 80s teams. Again, there are 6 teams from the 1980s. Pretty sure I mentioned that already. The next one being the 1985-86 Washington Capitals. And hopefully I'm holding that so that it can be seen easily enough. I'm not sure what the ideal position is here, but third overall in the NHL, and 50 wins and 107 points that season. They had a few good seasons through the mid-80s. This was the best of them, I believe. Lost the division final to the New York Rangers 4-2. But a lot of talent here, a lot of good notable names, and And again, just a, a really good team, third overall, sorry, in the NHL. That if it hadn't been for just some of the all-time great teams of the era, they might have been able to do more than they did. So they'll have a chance here in this setup, as will the 1986-87 Hartford Whalers. If I didn't mention this already, and sorry if I did, I wanted to include a few defunct teams in this setup for whatever reason. I just thought it would just add another little dynamic, a little spice to it, perhaps. Third overall in the NHL was Hartford that season, and so best. I guess another term, a description that I could use for these teams is underrated. These teams would be historically underrated because, again, they didn't beat out the all-time great teams because they were merely quite good, very good. But yeah, third overall in the NHL for Hartford that season, first in the Adams division, ahead of teams like Montreal, Buffalo, and Boston at the time. So they didn't replicate the regular season success in the playoffs, losing the division semifinals to the Quebec Nordiques, but they're captained by a young Ron Francis and a pretty talented lineup, including Dave Babich. I think I said earlier that he's going to be in this one a few times. At a different age and on a different team, so that doesn't bother me. That might bother some players or replayers. So we're into the 90s, the 1991-92 Vancouver Canucks, and again, sorry, the voice is getting a little tired. Trevor Linden captained them. This was, I think, Pavel Bure's rookie season, pretty wet behind the ears then he would have been. Fourth overall in the NHL, and actually a big reason why I chose this team, the 1991-92 Vancouver Canucks over, say, the 94 team that got all the way to the Stanley Cup final, is because I'm a big fan of the Hockey Guy, his YouTube channel, and he is a big fan of the Vancouver Canucks. He's been a Canucks fan for 40 years, and so 4 decades, and he insists that actually this was the better overall team than the one that advanced to the Cup Finals in 1994, and also the team that had, I think, 101 points, or maybe a little more than that, in the 1993 season. Though this season here was an 80-game season. This was right before they switched to 84. So I think 96 points in 80 games means that points per game, at least, I think this team was actually even better overall than the couple of teams in years that followed. They lost the division final to what would have still been a pretty strong Edmonton Oilers team in 1992, but fourth overall in the NHL that season. So finally, and sort of closing off the generation gap, you have the 1970 Montreal Canadiens and, a young, or prime approaching, actually, Yvon Cormier, a youngish Lemaire, and a 38-year-old veteran captain, John Beliveau, and elder Henri Richard as well. He'll also factor into this game in one other way, which I'll get to. You have the 1994-95 Quebec Nordiques. And honestly, I think that they're going to be kind of a favorite in this one. But yeah, you have Sakic here, Peter Forsberg in his rookie season, Owen Nolan, who had 30 goals that season, which when you consider that this was actually the shortened season, 48 games, the fact that he was able to get to 30 within this time frame, it's really a shame for him. He was really probably on pace for a career year that season. But 65 points in 48 games meant that the Quebec Nordiques finished second overall in the NHL that year, second only to the Detroit Red Wings, who, of course, would go on the following season to have their historic 131, 132 points or whatever it was that they managed. So, yeah, really good team here, the Quebec Nordiques. And also, this was the final season for the Quebec Nordiques. They were the Colorado Avalanche. After the season, they moved to Colorado. So those are the dozen teams that are going to play in this league of very good, quite good all-time teams in the Redemption League. Again, I like the ring of that. And so I also wanted to show some of the parameters, some of the breakdown of how I'm going to play this out. This will be a 32-game regular season schedule. And from another project that I did, goodness, now that glare is bothering me. Okay, hopefully that's still able to be seen easily enough. From another project that I did with a game called Kill the Power Play by Roberto Schiavini, one thing that I learned from that project is that I really like the 12-team, 32-game season format. So I'm trying to do this in some way so it'll be a little more decorative, a little nicer to look at. I'll use these, actually. I'm trying to remember now if in this edition of the video I did introduce these. These are the more portable versions of the cards, so in case I want to play it when I'm away, I can bring these with me. I actually, with my season replay for Mike Owens Quick Play Hockey, I had pictures of the team cards on my phone, and so I could flick back and forth between looking at the team cards and also playing with the die roller, because during much of the game itself, you actually don't need to look at these cards. It's only when a goal is scored. Everything else you work out before the game. Yeah, maybe I'll put those there like that, and just gab a little further here about the season format. And with the idea that, I mean, if you're looking to do a replay, a project of your own, hopefully maybe this could help. But it's a 32-game regular season schedule with the 12 teams. And I like that breakdown. I feel like in that case, the teams are matched up just enough, but not too much. So they'll each have seen each other a few times, in this case, 2 to 4 times before the postseason and before any postseason matchups. No overtime. I just simply straight up, I don't do it 3-on-3. I mean, these teams didn't play in that era anyway, but 3-on-3 shootouts, I can't be bothered with any of that. Sudden death I will do, and there will be best of 7 playoffs, 3 rounds, so there will be quarterfinals, semis, and a final. And 7-game series, or up to 7 games in each one. There will be 4 divisions in this and 2 conferences. And the Makita Conference, and these are all named after recently departed players and personalities, people who contributed significantly to the game. So you have the Makita Conference for Stan Makita. And in this conference, you have the Henry Division, Division in honor of the Pocket Rocket Richard, Henry Richard, and also the Howie Division for the late great Howie Meeker, who actually just passed away in 2020. It was as I was doing a 1946-47 replay, actually, the year that he won. I'm not sure if it's called the Calder Trophy at that time, but he won Rookie of the Year in the NHL that season over Gordie Howe, actually. Gordie Howe didn't have quite the rookie campaign that Meeker did. And Meeker, even after he retired, obviously he didn't go on to have quite the career that Gordie did in the long run, but he contributed to the game a lot after he retired in Hockey Night in Canada with various instructional books and things like that. So, also Colby Cave, and I should have double checked, I think he was only 25, possibly 26 when he passed away in the summer of 2020. What else can I say about it that hasn't already been said? I mean, just tragic and too young. Basically, I think he went into a coma and just never came to, never woke up. This Colby division is going to be named for Colby Cave. And it's in the Howard Chuck Conference. I guess I divided it between up with era, kind of older era, and then more relatively modern. Though that will have no bearing on where the teams are placed. I'll get into that with the next board that I have here, hidden just off camera. The Colby Division and the Joey Division. And the Joey Division is for somebody who really gave a lot to the game, really gave the better part of his life to it. And though he didn't actually play a game, but this is for Mr. Edmonton Oiler, Joey Moss, who also passed away in 2020. And I won't pretend to be any kind of expert, knowing his biography or anything like that, but definitely well worth checking out. Research, Google or whatever, Joey Moss. A lot of really, really nice touching tributes to him from the NHL, from the best of the best, the cream of the crop. When you think of the great 80s Oilers days, he was really an integral off-ice part of that, was Joey Moss. So this division will be, in tribute to him, I guess. And yeah, it's the Howard Chuck Conference. You have the Howard Chuck Conference, the Makita Conference, the Henry, Howie, Colby, and Joey divisions. And if I needed to repeat that. The teams will be randomly placed. If you've seen or read Harry Potter, think the sorting hat. I haven't figured out exactly how I'm going to do it. I'm going to get some sort of random selector, random picker. Who knows? I might even just throw names into a hat, literally a sorting hat and an actual sorting hat. And I'm just going to pull them out. There's going to be 3 teams in each division. And qualifying for the playoffs will be 4 division winners, but then also 4 wild cards. And the way I'm going to do this is, as it says over here, the wild cards can come from any division. I have a similar setup for my League of Champions and Presidents, though it hasn't happened through 2 seasons, where it is possible that 3 playoff teams could come from one division, and then you could only have one, that being the division winner, coming from another division. So that even with this random assignment, if there are divisions that are stronger and divisions that are weaker, and again, I think these teams are fairly closely matched. It's impossible to have a perfect setup where every team is perfectly even, but I think even in the event that there is a division that's significantly stronger or weaker than the other, this will mitigate that. I like doing this. I just think it adds a little more intrigue. And so if a team is in a strong division, they're not a victim of their division. And if a team is in a weak division, they're not getting a free ride or anything like that. The way that the playoff breakdown will work in the quarterfinal, DW1 stands for division winner 1, and then WC4 is wild card 4. And then it goes 2, 3, and obviously, and by 1, I mean the division winner with the highest number of points will be up against the wild card team with the fewest amount of points. And then same thing, second highest and second lowest and so on until you get to 3 and 4. I figured that this, that was pretty self-explanatory after that. High versus low reseeding. So let's say that there is an upset in the opening round. That doesn't guarantee that the team, like, the next run down, that, like, say this team advances and this team does not, it doesn't automatically mean that these two teams will see each other in the following round. I don't think it does. Maybe it does, actually. Anyway, high versus low reseeding, home ice advantage. And I want the best possible matchups in the semis and the final. But yeah, the wild cards can come from any division in this setup. And I'm probably neglecting some things that I said in one of several editions of this video that I made earlier on. But yeah, the next time that I come back and do a video on this project to be, because I've not started playing it out yet, but it will be to actually assign the teams to their relative divisions. And then actually, I don't have it here, but the breakdown will be to get to the 32 games. Teams play each other within their division and conference 4 times each, 2 home and 2 away. And then in the other conference, they'll just have the 1 home and away game against that team. But with this wildcard breakdown, I mean, it doesn't really go by conference and division for playoffs. So it is possible that you'll have teams, other than the division winners, which will be separated in the opening round. You can get various combinations within the divisions. Hasn't happened in the League of Champions and Presidents yet, but that is a 6-team league, not a 12. And it's only been a couple of seasons. So yeah, this is the game Mike Owens Quick Play Hockey. I have a few other videos discussing this game on my channel. And if I have not said it too many times already, though probably I have, I'm, needless to say, very eager to get going on this project. Again, whether or not I said this, and sorry if I have already, I have a couple of projects that are just about finished right now. Technically, my Hockey Bones project they're doing a one-off off-season best of 7. They being the winner of the project, the King of the Hill, the Chicago Blackhawks, up against the historic champion Toronto Maple Leafs from that season historically. And then my shootout League of Champions and Presidents season 2 is game 3 of the final has just been completed. So that doesn't have too many more games to go. And again, if I'm repeating myself, sorry about that. But I've tried to make this video now several times, and then so I should cut it off in case I get one of those emergency text messages about the COVID 19 that I already mentioned earlier. I'm surprised actually that I've been able to talk now for over 20 minutes and not have one interrupt the video and disrupt or disable the camera temporarily. So anyway, anytime that you give to this, any engagement, certainly appreciated. And anything like commenting, liking, subscribing, sharing, all that great stuff. It's never expected, but it is always appreciated. And hopefully you got something out of this. I certainly get something out of it every time that I do a video and play one of these games on it, or just even discuss one. So I guess there's always at least one person. Anyway, that's definitely more than enough out of me for now, though. So bye for now.